What to do if you want to start a business? We're going to answer that question in this video. Okay, let's rock and roll. Let's make it happen. Okay, so there's a lot of things that you have to think about if you're considering starting a business, and make sure that you pay attention because I'm here to help you. I'm here to serve and show you the steps that you're going to need to take. Okay, if you've never started a business before, you should probably write your business plan. Get it written down on a piece of paper, or obviously you could type it up on like Google, like a Google Doc or Microsoft Word or something like that. Get it on paper. And what's beautiful about Google is that you can get on there and Google sample business plan or business plan, and you can see very similar plans that many templates and things like that of what people have done in the past and template forms. So you have a lot of questions and a lot of things that you're going to need to answer. The reason that this is important is from most of the people that have ever asked me for business advice, or they wanted to get into a business and they said, hey, where do I start? What do I do? I can't tell you how many things that I will just tell them verbally that they've never even thought of. And so in a business plan, you're going to see so many different things that you've never thought of, including things like this. Let's just assume you're going to open up a restaurant and you're going to want to lease out some space. So I ask them, I say, well, how much square footage do you want? And they're like, well, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it that far or whatever. Well, you need to think about that. You need to put that on paper, right? And how much is your budget per month for rent, right? What can you afford? I don't know what your financial situation is. So what can you afford? Can you afford $5,000 a month rent? Can you afford $10,000 a month rent? Probably not for your first business, but you need to put that down, because as you write all this stuff down and as you answer these questions, it's going to allow you to search for the appropriate real estate that you can lease, right? That's just for leasing stuff. Then, for example, for employees, have you thought about how much you're going to pay your servers? You know, your kitchen staff, your assistant manager, your manager. I mean, if you're going to start a restaurant, if you're going to start it like a mom and pops and it's you and your significant other or just you, maybe that's fine to start out with. Nothing wrong with that. Many restaurants have started like that. But if you're going to kind of start big and say, no, I want a full general manager, I want 3 assistant managers, I want team leads, I want somebody in the back of the house in the kitchen, running the entire kitchen that's in charge. I want somebody that's the head of all the waiters and waitresses. Okay, you're talking big money. When you start thinking that, you're going to have revolving payroll that's a lot. So then you have to think, okay, how much do I need to come up with initially to start my business so that I can afford to have a payroll like this running and a rent roll like this running, right? Every month you got to put in rent. Have you thought about the fact that most landlords ask you for at least 1 month security deposit? So let's say your rent's $5,000 a month. They're going to want $5,000 up front just as a security deposit. That just goes into their checking account. They hang on to it. And if you honor everything in the lease agreement during the entire life of the lease, then they'll give it back to you. But most of the time at the end of the lease, you apply it towards different things or whatnot. I mean, if you've done everything, then they give it back to you. But that needs to be a small portion of what you think about. So I'm trying to give you an example, obviously, with a restaurant and what things you need to be thinking about and what you're going to need to be doing when you start a business. Other things you need to do before getting in. So you've got your business plan. So once you've got your business plan laid out, now you got to get your financing in order. Now, some people, they say, well, I've saved up this much. So I've budgeted, I think my restaurant's going to cost $100,000 to start, which in my opinion, depending on the size of a restaurant, probably is not enough, because a lot of times just the build out, see, this is another thing people don't think about, is when you move into a space and you've got this theme and this vision in mind about what you want your restaurant to look like and what the feel is, the feng shui as a customer walks in and the paint colors on the wall, and are you like, say, Rainforest Cafe where they've got the trees and the birds and everything painted and wallpaper on the wall, whatever. What do you want that to look like? Well, whatever it's going to look like, it's probably not going to just be like that the second you take over the space. So you're going to have a budget for build out. And depending on how extensive your build out is, you can spend tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, some of the restaurants in like Las Vegas have spent millions of dollars on their build out. It just depends. So now you've got a budget for all of that. So getting your finances in order to truly understand how much money your business is going to cost just to get into is huge. And putting that all down on paper is great. Remember, I'll keep saying this in videos. The number one goal of business is to make money. So if you're passionate about cooking If you're a chef, you're a certified chef, you went to the Atlanta Culinary School and you graduated at the top of your class and you know this is where you're going to be, understand that actually having your own restaurant is so much more work than you just maybe pursuing your passion of loving to cook. So you might be better off, and this might save you your life savings. You might be way better off not starting a restaurant now and just going to work for a couple really nice, 4 or 5 star restaurants, maybe your Capitol Grills, your Ruth Chris's, finding a really nice steakhouse in Las Vegas like John George or something like that. Going out there and working there, they're going to pay you well. And then you don't have all the stress of staffing every day and rent and utilities and, putting everything together and dealing with employee drama and ordering supplies and making sure everything's perfect. Running the business versus just being an employer, being the chef, even the head chef, it's like 2 different planets. They're 2 different things. So don't just jump into it, okay? So I want to caution you with that. But all the things we're talking about with what you need to do. So you've already decided that you got your business plan written down. You've answered all your questions. You got all your finances in order. You got some money saved up. You got some credit. You got the ability to borrow money, which I strongly advise not to do it unless absolute necessary, unless you're willing to pay the price. And if your business goes out of business, you're like, yep, I'm going to be able to pay it back fairly quickly. It's not going to screw up the rest of my life. As long as you've got that in order, now here's what else you need to do. You need to sit down and you need to say, okay, in my local state, I'm going to need to register my business entity. I usually set up LLCs, limited liability companies. Many people confuse that, by the way, with limited liability corporation. There is no such thing. Now, a corporation is, in some people's perspective, is a company, right? Well, yeah, it is. But from a tax perspective, they're like 2 different things. So trying to get the word corporation out if you're thinking of LLC. It's a limited liability company. And what that does is generally it protects the business owner or the owners, the shareholders, against liability. Like if somebody was to sue you or sue your business, they can only sue what the assets of the business are, okay? That's a huge difference than if you have your house and your cars and your boat at the lake and all that. They can't sue you for that. They can only sue for your business. Now, in this day and age, people pretty much have been suing for just about anything. So somebody can sue you for any reason. So don't say, hey, Bateman said they can't sue me for this personally just because I got an LLC. They totally could, but they're not going to get anything if something happened at the business, most likely because it was a business liability or some kind of business issue. So I set up generally LLCs. That's what I like to do. But check with your CPA, check with your attorney, and find out what they recommend for you. You can do a corporation, like they have S Corps and things like that, like I said, LLC, and just get that figured out. So you're going to register your business entity. Then you're going to register your EIN number, which is like your federal, also known as FEIN, Federal Employment Identification Number. That is your social security number for your business. Try not to share it with anybody, but you're going to have to share it with, your payroll processing company if you use one, and banks. And all the government agencies are going to ask for it for licensing and things like that. They're going to almost always ask for your EIN number. It's a way that, like a social, they keep track of your business. So if you don't pay your bills, they can dock your business and things like that, et cetera, et cetera. If you're going to get a loan, say through the SBA, they're going to want your EIN number. Now, once you've set up your business entity with the state, and you've set up your EIN number, now the beauty is you can actually take that information and now you're ready to open up your business checking account. That's what's awesome. And at the same time, while you're doing that, you can apply for a business credit card. Now, they're going to probably make you personally guarantee it. They're going to want a guarantor because it's a new business. It's not proven. So they're going to want somebody that's going to guarantee whatever money's being spent for that business, they're going to want that person's social for that. So keep that in mind. So if you're the only owner of the business, then you're going to put your social when you apply for that credit card, that business credit card. And no matter what happens to the business, that bank, whether it's like Bank of America or Wells Fargo, when they issue that credit card, they're going to hold you most likely personally liable, even if your business goes out of business. So understand that. Understand that. And that's not our goal. We don't want to open up a business to go out of business. But if it does, you need to be aware that you still might have some liabilities, even though you were, say, an LLC. Those credit card bills could come back and haunt you. Just understand that. But again, you've decided you're going to make this happen, right? If you're watching this and you're on my camp, you're going to make this happen. So no matter what happens, you're not going to lose your money. You're not going to file bankruptcy. You're going to push forward every single time. That's our mentality when we're going through this business. And that's what I want to teach you. Don't just give up when the going's getting tough. In business, the going is going to get tough. So you have to just pre-program yourself that, wait a second, when the going gets tough, Bayman told me keep going. And yes, Bayman's telling you that, and Bayman does that, right? I'm a practitioner of that. When the going gets hard, I push harder, I run faster, because that's what you got to do to keep pace. It's just like running those laps around when those runners are in the Olympics. When that leader's pushing as hard as they can and they're at the front of the pack, the people behind are pushing as hard as they can to catch up. And that's the mentality you have to have, right, to be the hustler. So other things you got to think about, what you got to do when you start a business. So once you get that set up, if you're gonna, once you get your checking account set up and say your company credit card, now you're ready to buy your supplies and things like that. Make sure you've got a CPA ready. So already have your CPA lined up. This should have been done probably weeks prior, where you say, hey, I'm going to be starting, ABC LLC, whatever it is. You're going to start this business. Your CPA is ready for you. You're going to say, hey, I'm going to send you monthly statements of our business credit card, or maybe you can give them the login credentials so they can grab the statements themselves. You're going to have your checking account all set up. So you're going to want to have them have access so they can reconcile all your books every single month. You're going to want to have, preferably, them to send you monthly financials so you can watch and see how your business is performing. Without those financials, you can't measure your business. You also can't see necessarily where all your money's going. As a business owner, a lot of times you lose sight of that because you're so busy running the business, you're not thinking of all the little tiny details. And in future videos, I'm going to teach you all how to look at those financial statements and how to scrutinize them so you can cut costs and increase profits. That's going to be an exciting video. So I would highly recommend that you get your CPA and have them send you monthly P&Ls, profit and loss statements, financial statements. There's all the different stuff that they can send you. Have them send that to you so you can look that over. So then now let's talk about payroll. If you're going to hire employees, you're going to want to get your payroll set up as soon as possible. And you're going to need things like we talked about, maybe your business entity number, your federal EIN number. You're going to need a local state withholding number, unemployment number. These are all separate tax accounts you're going to have to set up. And while we're on the topic of all that, you're going to also have to do all your licensing. If we're using the example of a restaurant, you're going to need to get your food license set up. Your drink, if you're going to have liquor or anything like that, your drinking, establishment license set up. Whatever restaurant permits, depending on the city, you're going to need a business license. So many different permits and licenses that you got to set up. You get all that stuff set up. Now, once you've got all this set up, including your payroll, now you got to start hiring your people. Hopefully you've already put out ads, weeks prior. Say it's on Craigslist or Monster or wherever, whatever place you want to try to find people, and you're bringing those people in for interviews. You've done phone interviews, you're sizing them up, seeing their history, checking out their resumes. So you're in the process of hiring staff. And one thing I recommend when you're starting a business is that you're doing like 5 things at once, because everything takes time to kind of marinate, if you will, right? So not everything happens overnight, even when you're setting up your payroll. So what you want to make sure is that everything that you're setting up is kind of building each day. So you got 5 things going on at the same time. It might take a month to set up those 5 things, or 2 weeks. You don't want to go like, I'm going to set this up and then wait and then go and set this up and wait. It might take you a year to open up your business if you go at that rate, right? Okay, so after you've done all that, then make sure you've also set up processes and systems. Oh my goodness, let this ring through your head. This is super important. Set up written processes. Again, Microsoft Word, Google Docs, whatever. I prefer Google Docs because you can view it from anywhere, right? You can open it up on your computer. It's stored in the cloud. So you can always download it locally. So I would recommend Google Docs, right? And Google Spreadsheets and things like that. So you can share it with your staff. Set up those processes and systems. And what are processes and systems? Think about all the aspects of your business and exactly how you want to do those things and put it on paper. As an example, McDonald's, they have a process of how they teach their employees to make a cheeseburger. I know it sounds easy, but there's actually documents. You could probably see them if you go to McDonald's. You could probably see them like taped to the wall or something. It shows you, okay, you take a bun, you put a beef patty on it, you put 1 slice of cheese on top of that. Maybe you put one pickle on top of that, right? Maybe some mustard, maybe some ketchup, and then you put the other bun. While that seems trivial, it seems like, oh, why would I have to do that? You don't want to have to be somebody that's always hands-on and always having to train every single person. So as a result of that, you've got to set up good processes. So I hope everybody's found this video helpful. If you liked it, please like it, please comment, and don't forget to subscribe. I'm going to keep delivering videos, and I hope this has been helpful. Remember, in business, no matter how hard it gets, never give up, push hard, and be the hustler.